Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story will make you believe that sometimes the past has a way of showing up, just when you've finally learned to live without it. My guest today is my friend Ethan. He survived betrayal, a painful divorce, and the long road to healing. But just when he thought he had finally moved on, the man his wife chose over him showed up at his door. Ready to find out what happened next? Let's begin.
Secrets of Alex's friends.
If you had asked me a few years ago, I would have told you I was a lucky man. I had a beautiful wife, a sweet 7-year-old daughter named Lily, and a home we'd worked hard to build together just outside of Seattle. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was ours, and I was proud of it. My wife, Claire, worked in advertising. She was smart, funny, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make everyone feel like they mattered. I was a construction manager. Blue collar, long hours, always coming home covered in sawdust. We were different, sure, but we balanced each other out, or so I thought. The cracks were small at first. Missed dinners, late nights, at the office, fewer texts during the day. I told myself she was just busy, stressed. We had bills, a kid, responsibilities. Who doesn't get burned out? But sometimes, when she came home, she smelled like a different kind of exhaustion. One I couldn't name, but could feel in my gut. There's this night I still remember like it happened yesterday. I had gotten off work early, rare for me. I stopped by the store, picked up her favorite wine, thought maybe we could have one of those quiet evenings we used to have before life got so complicated. But when I walked through the door, the house felt wrong. Too quiet. No TV, no Lily's laughter, no sound of Claire moving around. Her phone was on the counter, buzzing. I didn't mean to look, but the screen lit up with a message that changed everything. It wasn't even the words, it was the nickname, something intimate, something no man should ever see connected to his wife's name. That night, I didn't explode. I didn't yell or throw things. I waited. When she came home, she looked startled to see me. I asked her one question, "Who's Tyler?" Her face drained of color. That's when I knew. The confession came slowly, through sobs and shaking hands. She said it just happened. That it was emotional at first. That she'd been lonely, that I'd been distant, that she didn't mean for it to go so far. The usual lines, the ones that make you feel like somehow you're the one who drove them into someone else's arms. I packed a bag that night, not hers, mine, because I couldn't stand the idea of staying another second in a house that no longer felt like home. The days after were a blur. I slept at a friend's place, saw Lily when I could, tried to keep it together. Claire kept calling, texting, begging to talk. She said she'd ended things, that it was over, that she wanted to fix our family. But I couldn't even hear her voice without picturing her with him. And then came the part I didn't expect. Tyler wasn't some random guy from a bar or a fling from high school. He worked with her. Same company, same office. The man she cheated with saw her every day, even after she told me she'd cut contact. When I found that out, something in me broke for good. I filed for divorce. It was the hardest, ugliest thing I've ever done. And I thought that would be the end of it. Just me, my daughter, and a quiet kind of peace that comes when there's nothing left to lose. But life doesn't always leave you in peace. Sometimes it waits until you start to heal and then throws the past right back at your door. And that's exactly what happened next. Divorce isn't an ending. It's a slow, painful unraveling of every piece of the life you thought you had. The first few months after Claire and I split were a haze of routine. Work, gym, sleep, repeat. I tried to fill every minute so I wouldn't have to think. But no matter how many hours I spent at the construction site or how loud I played the TV at night, silence had a way of finding me. Lily was my only real light. Every other weekend, she'd come stay with me. We'd make pancakes, build pillow forts, watch her favorite cartoons. She never asked too many questions, but sometimes I'd catch her looking at me like she was trying to understand why Daddy didn't smile the same way anymore. By the end of that year, things were finally starting to feel okay. Not good, but manageable. I'd even started dating again, casually. A woman named Jenna, a nurse I met at the gym. She was kind, grounded, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe I could be normal again. Then one Friday evening, everything changed. It was raining hard, typical Seattle weather. Lily was at her mom's and I was home alone, making dinner, when I heard a knock at the door. It wasn't polite or hesitant. It was heavy, urgent. I opened it, and for a second, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. Tyler, the man who had torn my family apart, was standing on my doorstep, soaked from the rain, eyes wide with something between fear and desperation. "What the hell are you doing here?" I said, my voice colder than I felt. He looked around like he expected someone to be watching. "Ethan, please, I know I'm the last person you want to see, but I need your help." I almost laughed. "You need my help? You're kidding, right?" But he didn't move, didn't blink. And that's when I noticed the bruises on his face. Dark, fresh, one eye nearly swollen shut. "Please," he said again, voice cracking. "They're after me." I should have slammed the door. Any sane man would have. But something about the way he said it, the tremor, the sheer terror, made me hesitate. "Who's they?" I asked. He stepped inside without waiting for permission. I could smell blood under the rain. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "It's complicated," he muttered. "I didn't know who she really worked for." "She?" He looked up, eyes flicking toward me. "Claire?" My stomach dropped. "Stop," I said. "You don't get to come into my house and throw her name around. You destroyed my marriage. You don't get to—" "I'm serious, Ethan," he shouted. "You think you know what happened between us? You have no idea what she was into." That's when I realized he wasn't just scared. He was paranoid. His hands were shaking, eyes darting to every window. I wanted to throw him out. I wanted to tell him to go to hell. But curiosity, that ugly human instinct, made me listen. He said Claire had gotten involved with someone at work. Not romantically, but financially. That she'd been funneling company money into something she didn't understand. And when things went bad, she'd used him as a cover. At first, I thought it was some kind of twisted excuse, another lie. But when he showed me his phone, messages, emails, names I didn't recognize, I felt a chill run through me. "Why come to me?" I asked. "Why not the police?" "They can't help me," he said. "And Claire, she's gone." "Gone?" He nodded. "Disappeared 3 days ago." For a long moment, I just stared at him. The woman I'd once loved, the same woman who'd betrayed me, was missing. And the man she cheated with was standing in my kitchen, bleeding and begging for help. It made no sense. None of it. But deep down, I knew this wasn't something I could just ignore. Because if what he said was true, I wasn't done with Claire. Not yet. I shouldn't have been surprised that nothing about this was simple. Life had a way of refusing clean endings. Tyler's bruised, scarred face at my doorstep was his own kind of chaos, and when he said Claire was gone, I felt an old, dull panic stir, the same one that woke me in the middle of the night that first week after I found the messages. We didn't call the cops right away. Part of me wanted to, but another part, a stubborn, private part, wanted answers first. Tyler's shaking hands, the messages on his phone, the names I'd never heard, the references to payments and false invoices, it all smelled like something messier than an office fling. He told me people were looking for him. Real people. The kind that don't care about lawsuits or HR complaints. The kind that make threats and break things. So, I drove. We drove to a rundown motel off the highway where Tyler said Claire had last checked in earlier that week. The neon sign buzzed like an insect. Inside, the curtains were drawn, the carpet stained with stories. The front desk clerk didn't ask many questions. People come and go here for reasons that don't need names. He handed me a key for room 12 as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. I knocked. No answer. The room smelled like cheap perfume and stale coffee. The bed was unmade, a lamp still on. On the vanity, a small stack of receipts, a lipstick smear, and, the thing that broke me, a note in Claire's handwriting that said, "I'm sorry. I'll fix this." There was also a smear of blood on the corner of the paper. My hands went cold. Tyler started to speak, to tell me how he'd left her that morning after an argument, how she'd said she needed to meet someone about making it right. He said he'd come back later and the room was empty. He said he'd been afraid to call me because he thought I'd hate him more than anyone. His voice cracked in that confession, and some small part of me wanted to punch him, or hug him, or both. We called the police then. I gave the clerk Claire's descriptions, the license plate of the rental car Tyler claimed he'd seen, the receipt numbers. The officer who took the report didn't promise miracles, but he said they'd look into last known GPS pings from Claire's phone. While we waited for any official lead, Tyler scribbled down an address. "This is where I picked up a payment," he said. "It's a storage unit business with a back office. I never went in, but I saw people there." His hand trembled as he pointed. I could see the map on my phone like a vein leading out of the motel and into a small industrial park on the other side of town. By dusk, we were standing in front of a corrugated metal warehouse under a sky-bruised purple. It was the kind of place where sun doesn't stay long and secrets can breathe. Tyler's confidence melted as we approached. We watched from the shadow of an overgrown fence while men moved boxes in and out like clockwork. I took pictures with my phone, hands steady now. My anger had sharpened into something useful. It was a risk. I knew that. But I also knew what it felt like to lose everything, to feel like the world had swallowed you whole. I wasn't going to stand by and do nothing. We called the officer back, and this time they came with more urgency. The men at the warehouse were not interested in courtesy. They were interested in business. When the police knocked, there was a clamor, some running, a door slamming, and then found inside a small locked room. Claire. She looked like a ghost. Her eyes were hollow, her hands raw from trying to pick at the lock. When she saw me, something like recognition and terror flashed over her face. They unfolded the story fast once she could talk. Claire had gotten involved in a scheme at work that spiraled out of control. What started as a desperate gamble to clear a bad client account turned into blackmail. The people behind it kept moving the goalposts, and Claire found herself deeper every day. She'd lied to protect me, to protect our life, and then the people who controlled the money realized she could be squeezed harder. She'd tried to make the payments, to disappear for a few days while she figured it out, and when it didn't work, she got trapped. Tyler had been a scapegoat in the mess. He hadn't wanted any of it, and he'd paid a price for sticking around. Claire hadn't been kidnapped in the cinematic way I'd imagined, not by strangers in masks, but by a network that trades on fear and paperwork and quiet threats. It was just as ugly. Seeing her then, in that harsh light, all the layers of grief and fury and nostalgia collided. I remembered the woman who once planned our camping trips and read bedtime stories to Lily. I also remembered the late-night lying, the messages, the betrayal. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to tell her she owed me every second of my life back. But when she reached for me and whispered, "I'm so sorry," the words trembled like a thing you can't fix. We pressed charges. The people who'd been using my wife as an asset got led away in handcuffs. Claire went to the hospital for a checkup, then into counseling and a program to make amends the only way she could, by stepping up for what she'd broken. She wanted me to come with her, to try couples therapy, to find some path back. I went to a few sessions, partly for Ella, partly because I needed to understand, to map the ruins. What I learned was blunt and personal. You can forgive someone and you can choose to co-parent with dignity, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean trust automatically returns like a rented car. We rebuilt schedules and rules, picked up our daughter from school together sometimes, sat in the same room at parent-teacher conferences. We built fences where blind spots used to be. The night I opened my door to Tyler, I expected rage to run me like gasoline. Instead, I felt a kind of exhausted clarity. The man who'd come for help was not my enemy anymore. He was another casualty of the same broken system that had done the real damage. Claire wasn't a cartoon villain. She was a complicated human who made catastrophic choices. In the end, I didn't walk back into the life we had. I chose something quieter, a life where Lily's laughter comes first, where I teach her to recognize boundaries and the messy consequences of people's choices. I kept my distance from Claire romantically, but I didn't abandon the threads that mattered most. She worked to earn a place at the edges of our life. I protected the center. If there's a final thing I can tell you, it's this. The door that opens on your past doesn't always slam you back into it. Sometimes it lets you see what was really there, the rot and the beauty both. And sometimes, after the storm, you choose to build something new, not on the ruins, but beside them.
And that was Ethan's story. What would you do in his place? Would you have listened to Daniel or slammed the door in his face? Do you believe people like Clara can ever truly change? Or is betrayal something no relationship can recover from? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every one of them. And if this story hit you as hard as it hit us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode of Stories of a Friend. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow with another unbelievable true story.
Secrets of Alex's Friends.